Chelsea 2, Lincoln 1, but to be fair, this game is not exactly indicative that Chelsea are on for a cup run. Welcome, Blue Believers, to another episode of the Stamford Sync, where we are syncing up with everything Chelsea FC. And there was a moment where this video was very different, man. Oh, mate, Chelsea Lincoln in the League Cup. So Chelsea scored 2, Lincoln scored 1. Before I get into anything else, man, absolute massive props to Lincoln, their manager. They were so well organised. And yeah, Chelsea are going for a bit of a rough patch at the moment, but in the first half, which I'll get into a little bit more in a minute, they made us look distinctly ordinary, man. Like, mate, honestly, it felt like a Premier League game for the first half. But guys, before we get into the rest of it, if you are enjoying the content and would like to see more, please do me the distinct honour of liking and sharing the video, subscribe to the channel, or just roast me in the comments, whatever gets you through your day. Mate, that first half, man, oh, mate, I thought the Man United game was hard to watch. Mate, the first half, Lincoln made us look abysmal. We looked so bad, man. Honestly, they were just so well organised and we had zero answers. And it was just simple as well. It wasn't exactly like we were playing like a Barcelona regen, do you know what I mean? It was just really standard stuff, man. Like lots of set pieces, digging in with their tackles, defensively solid. You know what I mean? We had 80% possession. 80% possession. We had all of the ball and zero idea of what to do with it. So the starting lineup, let's quickly go through the starting lineup before I rag into the first half a little bit too much. So as expected, Philip Jorgensen started in goal. Malagusto right back, a centre-back pairing of Wesley Fofana and Trevor Chalobah. Yoro Hato started on the left. Midfield pivot of Andre Santos and Enzo Fernandez. Attacking midfield three of Alejandro Garnacho on the left. Facundo Buenanote in the middle. And Jamie Gittins out on the right. And Tyreek George got the start up top. Right, so the Tyreek George thing. So, mate, this game's been pulling me all over the place, man. When I did my match prediction, I predicted Mark Yu to start up front because I was like, that's obviously why we've been saving him. That's why I didn't play the Man United game. That's why Tyreek George got the minutes, whatever. So I put that out, and then everyone tells me, and I look it up, and I'm like, oh no, Mark Yu is cup tied. And then so I'm like, right, okay. So I put, say, in my other video that I brought out today, okay, Mark Yu is cup tied, so that was impossible. And then after I released that video, then my good friend behind the dugouts and a couple of other of you guys in the comments let me know, actually, there's been a rule change this season. And Mark Yu wasn't cup tied, but the Chelsea brass didn't find that out until today because we are a professional football club that do professional things. Mate, what an absolute mess this whole thing was, man. So yeah, that was the lineup. Tyreek George starting up front, and we just looked shocking in the first half, man. So the key main takeaways for me in the first half: Facundo Buenanote and Tyreek George basically invisible, man. Basically invisible, which is interesting as we'll get on to later. Anytime it looked like something interesting might happen, it was coming from the wings. Our most successful attacking outlet in the entire first half was Jamie Gittins, and that was with like one reasonable chance in the first like 15 minutes. Mate, the first 15 minutes were the worst, man. It was so bad. It was so bad. So yeah, they basically just pulled us apart in the first half, man, which is amazing because they only had like 20% of the ball, but they just made us look distinctly average and ordinary, and our players just did not have answers for anything. And I guess it's one of those, isn't it? Because we put on so many players that have got very little game time and have basically never played with each other. Do you know what I mean? Yoro Hato hasn't played much. Garnacho hasn't played much. Gittins hasn't played much. Buenanote hasn't played much. Tyreek George hasn't played much. Wesley Fofana's coming back from an injury. Do you know what I mean? Malagusto and Trevor Chalobah were the only guys on the pitch that have played a reasonable amount of games. And obviously, Philip Jorgensen got the last game after Robert Sanchez got himself sent off. So I'm not going to go through all of the players because I've spoken a little bit about it already. But one thing I will say is I am glad that Robert Sanchez's match ban is only on one match ban because overall, first half, second half today, Philip Jorgensen did not look that good, man. He made a fair few reasonably whoopsie moments and little errors that were rather unbecoming of a Chelsea goalkeeper. So we go into the end of the first half, 1-0 down. Couldn't believe it. It was literally, I was just like, what? I was literally preparing for this video in my mind. I was like, we're going to lose this game. We're going to lose this game. It's going to be 3 losers on the trot, one of which is to a League One team. And I didn't know how I was going to react. Fortunately, I mean, let's look at how I'm reacting and we won the game. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, this is still like, you know, it was a really difficult game to watch, man. But like I say, fair play to Lincoln. Absolutely brilliant job from them. So they had us on toast in the first half, essentially. And in the second half, we came out I would imagine that Enzo Maresca has had some, sharp words in the changing rooms, because we came out and instantly things looked a little bit different. About just towards the end of the first half, Jamie Gittins and Alejandro Garnacho had swapped, so Garnacho moved to the right and Gittins was on the left. That carried on as they came out. And obviously, there'd maybe been some little minor tweaks and stuff to try and just try and break through that press, man. That press from League One Lincoln was just tearing us to shreds in that first half. So within the first 5 minutes of the game, right, Tyreek George scores a goal. It was a great goal, great shot, absolute rocket missile, really, really good goal from Tyreek George. But the truth of the fact is it was against the run of play and wasn't necessarily indicative that we'd change things for the better. It was just Tyreek George taking an opportunity and he took it very well. So got absolute props to Tyreek George for that. I've been quite harsh on him recently, but I will not take that goal away from him. It was a great goal. But from a team perspective, like I say, it wasn't really like a well-earned goal from the team, do you know what I mean, against what should be very beatable opposition for us. The second goal came from Facundo Buonanotte. So what was interesting about that is obviously I said in the first half, Buonanotte and Tyreek George were kind of invisible and really struggling to get into the game. And within the first 5 minutes of the second half, they've both scored a goal. Facundo Buonanotte in particular had a much better half. Obviously, Tyreek George is... And to be fair, Tyreek George got a bit more involved, like a couple of nice little 1-2s with Buonanotte and stuff. But Buonanotte in general, throughout the second half, was recycling possession well and being a bit more involved in linking up play and looked a bit more like he was actually, sort of part of what was going on rather than just being bypassed a lot like it was in the first half. Had a couple of other shots and stuff, which was good. But yeah, Tyreek George, apart from the goal, didn't really do a huge amount. Facundo Buonanotte's goal was good. He kept on pushing and managed to roll the goal in at the end. So fair play to him. He's a good dribbler. He's a good passer. Still very young. We could do worse for the backup centre attacking midfielder for cup games, especially whilst we're in this period. Maybe he could, develop and get a bit more comfortable and a bit stronger. Absolutely. But yeah, so and the thing is, that was kind of it, man. Like, the game was definitely nowhere near as bad in the second half, all of it, as it was in the first half. But after those first two goals, then again, we just really struggled to make things happen. We were getting more opportunities. Like, at the end of the first half, we had 0.3 XG to their, 1.8 or something. And by the end of it, we had about even XG, do you know what I mean, with what Lincoln had managed. So we did generally get more back into the game, but it was still the same tired old tropes, man, like struggling to break the press and, they were really organised, getting their men behind the ball when we were in attack. And, there was a few wasteful moments as well. One from Pedro Neto where he had a really good opportunity to pass to Esteval Willian, who came on later as one of the subs, by the way. And Pedro Neto also came on as one of the subs. And it was just wasted and missed. And it was just like, oh, man. So we made a couple more subs. We brought, like I said, we brought Esteval Willian on. We brought Pedro Neto on. We brought Mayuka, sorry. Actually, I think it's Mayuka. He came on as well. And also, interestingly, Marco Correa came on in midfield. Now, this is interesting in particular because it's something I've mentioned on the live streams with the Blue Lounge, and I think in a couple of my videos. It was one of the things I was talking about with Yoro Hato. The interesting thing about Yoro Hato is because he plays such a similar role to Cucurella, if he gets good enough, quick enough, then that might see Cucurella get opportunity to play in the midfield, which is something that we've seen him do a lot from that left-back spot anyway. And to be honest, man, if I'm being completely honest, I much prefer the look of Cucurella in midfield than I do of Enzo Fernandez. Fernandez had a few okay moments today, like a couple of nice long passes and stuff, but again, he's just looking a bit of a passenger, man, do you know what I mean? Whereas Cucurella instantly, boundless energy and his passing's good and he's getting forward and he's, sometimes he's drifting over to the right and, he's kind of everywhere. If I'm completely honest, if Yoro Hato can get to a point where he's trusted soon, I'd start rather seeing him at left back and Cucurella in midfield based on our midfield depth at the moment. If Enzo Fernandez is still off form or not an option, that 100% would be something that I'd be happy to see. So yeah, we won the game, man. We won the game, but it's not really a happy win because ultimately we made it look really, really difficult. And the worrying thing about that is coming off of the back of the video I released earlier and the few losses and stuff. Like, one of the things we were really excited about at the start of the season was the depth. And today was like, all the depth is on the field against opposition that were literally 2 leagues lower than us, man. Now, don't get me wrong. like I say, Lincoln absolutely deserve their flowers, and I had some really great chats with the Lincoln fans in my preview video, and they were really up for this game, man. And you can absolutely see why. They're really organised. Their manager obviously knows exactly what he wants them to do. They do this thing with this long throw in that just kept causing chaos and confusion, and we really, really struggled to deal with it. I think ultimately what let Lincoln down was not necessarily how Chelsea would. I think they just, in the start of that second half, I think they were thrown off by the nature of Tyreek George's goal, and the Buonanotte goal came literally minutes afterwards. So I think the first goal was against a run of play. The second goal for us came, that was just a moment of quality from Tyreek George. The second goal came kind of unexpectedly, probably for them, because they still hadn't managed to get themselves together yet. And after that, they managed to, obviously there was no more goals. And that was after putting on the likes of Esteban Willian and Neto and, putting Cucurella in midfield. Bringing some of our A team on to the field against League One opposition. So, positives about Enzo Maresca, I guess, is that he went in at halftime and whatever he said has to have made a difference. Do you know what I mean? So his man management was obviously good there. Obviously, the issue we had with him in the Man United game was the weird decisions and stuff that he made. He didn't make any subs at half-time, which maybe felt a little bit suspect because we were 1-0 down. But what he did, obviously, with the few small tweaks that he made and whatever he said to that team in the changing room at half-time, evidently worked. So I've got to give him that. And yeah, man, I don't know. Like, for me, this is kind of a game in a vacuum. It's a game in isolation. Not even just because it's a cup game, but because it's not representative of what's going to happen going forward, because the majority of the team that we saw out today aren't going to be playing most of the games. So yes, I'm happy we won the game. Don't get me wrong. Maybe this sounds like I'm being overly negative. I am, of course, happy we won the game, but we absolutely had to win that game. Do you know what I mean? It's like, if you're a Chelsea fan, tell me that you didn't rib United to one of your mates or put a comment on the internet somewhere when they lost to Grimsby. Do you know what I mean? I know I did. I'll be completely honest about it, man. I had a little bit of fun when Man United lost to Grimsby. Very much enjoyed that. We talked about it on a few of the streams and stuff. Do you know what I mean? And we were nearly in danger of becoming that. Do you know what I mean? So, we and in a much shorter time frame as well, because we've just gone from winning the Club World Cup and then all of a sudden we're 1-0 down to Lincoln at half-time in our first round of the League Cup in this season. So that would have denoted a bit of a crisis. Now, all this has done for me is like paper over the cracks of not being in crisis mode. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I will reserve judgment until the Brighton game now. Do you know what I mean? I'm not like, and I mentioned this in my preview and stuff. I'm not like, this is it. This is, the start of the season starts now and all of that. Do you know what I mean? Like I say, there's so much nuance and so many reasons why we can't look at this game in a vacuum, in isolation, and say, yeah, this is the beginning of the momentum shift, because it's absolutely not. It's, it's an absolute game that we just had to win. We absolutely had to win it. And honestly, man, so the Chelsea fans did a good job. I heard a lot of the Chelsea fans in the stands today, but the Lincoln fans were amazing. The Lincoln fans were absolutely amazing. The crowd was rocking, man. They were so good. And like I say, the team, you can absolutely see Lincoln are third at the moment, and this is, it will be a bit of a blow for them, but at the end of the day, they're looking at having a really good league campaign and will have, by the looks of it, have a great chance getting into the Championship next year. So I am 100% all for Lincoln carrying on to have a good season, because they showed Chelsea today one of the things that we're missing, and it's simplicity and man management. So yeah, simplicity in the tactical setup and man management. At the end of the day, they stuck to their guns. They knew what they were. They didn't need to have amazing technical footballers that cost millions and millions and millions of pounds in order to cause us problems today. And yes, it was the B team, but at the same time, we spent 50 million on Gittins. We spent 40 million on Garnacho. We spent 30, 40 million on Yoro Hasso. Do you know what I mean? It's like all of these guys that were on the pitch, for the most part, have cost a lot of money. Do you know what I mean? We even though it was our B team, it's a very expensively assembled B team, and their entire team probably costs less than our most expensive player. Do you know what I mean? When it comes down to it. So that's just the truth of it, man. That's just the truth of it. So definitely some food for thought in the League Cup. But ultimately, knowing Mark Yu is going to be available for me is a good thing going forward about whoever we come up against next in this tournament, because we were crying out for Mark Yu today. And that first half in particular. Now, like I say, fair play, Tyreek George scored the goal, but what Tyreek George didn't do was give us a number 9 presence, and that was really felt as far as I can see. That was really felt. If we'd have had a number 9 presence like Mark Yu, who is an amazing presser, he's got loads of energy. Do you know what I mean? I think that really would, and for instance, I believe that would have allowed Buonanotte to have had ultimately a much better first half, but he did grow into himself in the second half, don't get me wrong. But ultimately, if we are going to be playing League One or Championship opposition or lower league Premier League teams, or even when it comes to the Champions League like Paphos and Karabag, Mark Yu needs to be starting these games over Tyreek George for me. That's just an absolute given. Based on what we've seen from Mark Yu against this kind of opposition in an Enzo Maresca team. Do you know what I mean? It's not like Mark Yu is this random new signing that Maresca's never seen before. Like, he played so much in the Conference League last year and he was scoring goals. Do you know what I mean? And he was, Maresca knows exactly what he can do, and I don't know why we keep persisting with this Tyreek George thing. Now, at the end of the day, if Tyreek George keeps getting minutes and he grows into it and he keeps scoring goals, I will have egg on my face and we'll have that conversation when we have it. But just in terms of looking at what we've got right now, I think Mark Yu needs to be, at the end of the day, it wasn't Mark Yu's fault. He wasn't on the pitch. I don't even really know if we can say it was Enzo Maresca's fault that Mark Yu wasn't on the pitch today, to be honest, because what it seems to be, and it's quite difficult to decipher, man, because this is all, we've been pulled around with this particular piece of news so much. It seems like Chelsea, the brass, do you know what I mean, the sporting directors and whoever controls this half of it, only inquired as to if Mark Yu was actually eligible to play today, which was too late in order to register him for the game, right? So if we'd have asked a few days ago or even yesterday, I'm not 100% sure on the metrics for it, but if we'd have had a little bit more forethought and been like, there's been a rule change, maybe this affects, do you know what I mean, let's actually know all of the new rules about all of these competitions we're going to be playing in, then we'd have been able to have Mark Yu out there today. So at the end of the day, it didn't cost us because we won the game. That's good, but it's not a good look, is it, man? It's not a good look for the brass, is it, when you don't know the rules of the competition? I mean, this to me feels like another 4-4-3 moment, if I'm completely honest. It's just like, it's a bit of a cringe moment where you guys own and run one of the most expensive football teams in the world, and you didn't even know that a player that you have was eligible to play a game that he could have played today. Do you know what I mean? That for me is just a bit cringe, and I hope it's a wake-up call, and I hope that there's some strong meetings and some strong words said in some boardrooms over the next few days that make these guys start getting their act together, because how have we gone from winning the Club World Cup and finishing what felt like really strongly to last season, and all of a sudden we are just on the cusp of being a bit of a laughingstock, man, just because of the decisions that have been made. The sporting directors are getting it a lot in the neck, and Maresca has shielded himself from the heaviest of criticism today. There will still be a lot of criticism vis-a-vis Enzo Maresca because of how bad we did in the first half, but the win will paper over those cracks, as I said. But these next two games are paramount now, aren't they? What happens over the next kind of couple of weeks is really, really going to tell a story. As I said, I am not hyperbolic enough to be Enzo Maresca out yet. I believe that you have to build over time, and I was even like that with Graham Potter for a while. Do you know what I mean? It's like, eventually I was like, get him out, man. Just get him out. Maresca, for me, isn't at that Graham Potter level. Do you know what I mean? Where I'm looking at him and I'm just like, this is awful. You've absolutely got to go. Like, it's not close to that for me yet. But he's under the spotlight now. He's absolutely under the spotlight. And I think it's all, it's all fine and good saying, blame the sporting directors because they didn't, play the players or get the players that you wanted or whatever. But at the same time, we do have lots of players, and in the Man United game specifically, he did have more tools than he utilised in order to maybe get something out of that game. So ultimately, well done, Lincoln. Tough game, really, really tough game. I definitely wish Lincoln well for the season. I think they've put a really good team together. The manager seems like he's got a good idea about how to get them out of that league. It is very like rudimentary League One football, grassroots football. Do you know what I mean? At the end of the day, it's not like they're passing out from the back and, kind of tearing everyone apart like that. But at the end of the day, they're getting results, man, a la Jose Mourinho at the end of the day. So if they can carry that on, they'll definitely have a good season. And if any of the Lincoln fans that happen to be in my comment section for the preview game, if you happen to watch this, let me know what you thought about the game, man. It was really nice chatting to you guys last time. I can 100% see why you're also buzzed about your team this season. They, looks like a proper unit that are, they all know what they've got to do. They all know their roles. And as of the first half, we're really, really well organised, man. So absolutely fair play. Nice one, guys. I'm going to wrap it up there, but I'll catch up with you all very, very, very soon. Take it easy. Peace.